So then, we are back with more understandings from the scriptures of the Second Tabernacle services. We find ourselves then on the section of Yeshayahu, 61st chapter, where the nations are then rebuilding, and then the time being reduced from 2031. We find then ourselves during this time where many people are asking questions. Why are these wars then coming and going and coming and going? And the Messiah then, he said very precisely in the 24th chapter of Yeshayahu regarding then wars, rumors of wars, pestilences, earthquakes, and many troubles. And the Messiah said, Yahweh said very precisely, don't be troubled, because the time is not yet. So based upon what the Messiah said, not what anybody else said, not a president, prime minister of any kind, of anywhere, is what the Messiah said. Let's analyze and read what Yahweh the Messiah said. It is very simple. He said the time is not yet. So then we understand 61st chapter of Yeshayahu being the time of restoration, where then nations, they should refrain from war and then rebuild. This is what it means, time of restoration. So then when you read Yeshayahu the 61st chapter, you find first the Messiah then speaking of himself during the time of the spring feast's completion. The second section of it, you find then the autumn feast, and the Messiah, while he was in the temple, he did not read the second portion of it related with the vengeance, because the autumn feast was much further in the future. Then later comes the cities being refurbished, the cities laid waste for many centuries, and then Jerusalem and the Holy Temple. So then we find ourselves asking around, why are these wars then coming at this moment? The answer is very simple. Time of restoration of the old cities. It's come to a point in our world's society where we must have the holy cities giving directives. Must return, because in 2008, 2009, then ended the rulership of Nahashtan of 1,000 years, ever since 1009. When Jerusalem and the Holy Tomb, then both of them were leveled. Thus then, he started his 1,000 years of rule, and then in 2001, Nahashtan thought if he would make then a pact with then the nations amongst the Israelis and Palestinians during the time, then they would be able to hold after then the 1,000 years had expired. And there were many other nations involved in this situation. However, we find then the undoing of the covenant of death, then signed in 2001. And then there is another factor that so many people are so concerned with, it is next month, 21st of December 2012. Great news. Nothing is going to take place. Alignment of planet, disasters, zero, nothing. Nothing is going to take place. So resume your work. Make sure, don't quit your job. Jobs are not very easy finding these days. Don't go into a cave. Don't buy cans and be like a cave person. Resume work. Because what they were expecting of the 2012 situation, in fact, already had taken place in 08 and 09. It was the ending of the covenant of death, and also the ending of rulership of Nahashtan of his 1,000 years, spoken of by the Messiah in the 20th chapter of Revelation. This was the big event. There is nothing else. 2012 is not even part of any kind of relevant event of the Creator's calendar. You can check for yourself. You won't find any relevant information regarding it other than understanding the time of restoration and the reduction. So then, when you begin to understand why those nations are at war, it's because the holy cities must return. Read Yeshayahu the 61st chapter. and the cities laid waste for so many centuries. What do you think are those? Those are the cities of the Messiah. The Messiah said the authority was given to him in heaven and in the earth, meant he had taken the place of his Father in the Holy of Holies. Then Yohanan was in the first perfect holy city, as then of the second tabernacle services, and then from then on until 1009, those cities were given directives. Thus, when you read the 1,000 years, his people would be given then directives and not ruling the nations. Ruling is wrong. Directing. The word is directing the nations. What we are lacking these days is direction from Yahweh. Read the scripture. Where do you think comes from? Well, King David. What did he do every time he was faced with war? Did he not say, is there a prophet of Yahweh around? Can you make an inquiry? Is this person then is relevant? Has then a person with reputation then to inquire of Yahweh? Yes, then he would ask Yahweh through the prophet. Should he go and then invade these nations at this period of time? And Yahweh said, go ahead, because then the favor is with you. And he would do, and he would prosper. Precisely, it is what is lacking these days. That's why so many nations are being involved. And then we have the situation in Gaza. Very unfortunate. People are dying. And then nations have no directives. Where is Yahweh? He should be in his holy city. Where is the city? In the land of Cush, nobody knows, not even the site wasn't even found. And we are far behind schedule. This should be done in 08, 09. But then this time we must find out where the site is at and get the city ready. Because for this reason, the cities then are around to give directives to the nations as they used to do from the time of Yohanan until 1009. And some people ask, how come we don't have any records of those nations being directed? All the records were available in the Alexandrian library, where that scoundrel Constantine gave the order to burn it. You have to understand times and seasons. What Daniel said, then the beast would then try to change the times and seasons. And sure enough, came Constantine. Then he changed the laws, the times and the seasons. Where are the records of the evidence of the directives from the holy cities in the Alexandrian library that he gave the order to destroy? The linking is very easy doing it. Because the same person that changed then the times and seasons was the same person giving the order to destroy. You don't have a person doing half of it and the other person doing the half of it later. When the idea from the other side comes around, it's done in an instant. So then we find ourselves during this time absolutely desperate of finding out directives from heaven. And we find only in a holy city. Yeshayahu 1:8 already gave the site, the land of Cush, tabernacling amongst the fears. That's the first city. From there, directives shall be given. Now, it's our part then to set up an expedition, go over there and find in the site and fastly put together the city as it was during the time of Yohanan. Scripture as per Moses' instructions, and then the city ready and closed by the mid-Tishri of next year. Then give some time and Yahweh will speak, because it is his nature. That's why he came up with the cities. So his people would lead kingdoms and nations, being priests and kings. The kings, meaning the kingdom to come government, and then directives of the nations of the world. That's why they don't rule the nations. They simply give them directives. The ruling of the nations is related then in the future when the earth is restored and then Jerusalem is the capital. Then those working in a holy city would rule the nations of the future. That's another layer of understanding. At this time, the cities of Yahweh simply they give directives. For instance, Israel would go up to the city and say, should we go against this city? I would say either yes or no. But since where is the city? We don't have the city put together yet, so no answer for Israel. They are mounting up themselves as if they were then fighting with Goliath, and no word from Yahweh. We don't know what's going to come up of this war. There is already Egypt taking sides, being a side of Gaza, and more countries on their side, favoring the Palestinians. It's not going to be very nice. And when the Muslims then join up together and they make their minds, the best is get out of the way. Because we are not dealing with only a country and another country. There is the fact of countries. This time the fight is going to be big. And if Yahweh does not direct, it's not going to be nice. Now let's make sure that an expedition is put together and then they find a holy site and then put the city together.